Unmasking was a creative writing and performance project where Peggy Douglas and Anne Swedberg created a workshop with 10 young adults on the art of collecting older people's stories using the liberatory pedagogy of Paulo Freire and the Highlander Folk School. The participants then collected stories from 10 members of the Chattanooga community who shared their experience, strength, and hope in overcoming a major life challenge. The workshop facilitators then coached the participants in the art of creating poetic monologues. In the final phase of the project, the participants rehearsed and performed the monologues for the storytellers and the general public. The process allowed participants to connect more deeply with those outside of the typical social group to reinforce the common bond of our humanity, which is fundamental to our cultural and social well-being. Here's what the students and storytellers had to say about the process. Listening with my heart to the stories told in our class created an emotional connection. This allowed me to gain a deeper understanding of other people's experiences. Good advice, even coming from a friend, doesn't always shift my perspective. But listening to a story about the time when the storyteller overcame a difficult challenge came across as a personal truth. My beliefs often change because of a story that hits me in the heart. There's just something very vulnerable, honest, and mind-blowing about the whole experience of listening to personal stories, writing a monologue to capture the story, and performing it in front of an audience.
So I interviewed Pat Wilcox, and she talked about one of the hardest times of her life was her husband passing away from dementia. She seemed very nice, very kind, and seeing her, I did not know anything that she was going to say, especially because she started out, the thing I wanted you to know about me is the hardest time was my husband dying. So I think it definitely shows how people go through life and you don't expect to see all the things that they go through who they are. So first impressions aren't everything, and I think that was important to learn through this class. I personally have struggled with depression in my life, especially during COVID and everything and being isolated from everyone. So I think that her talking about her depression and talking about how it's followed her, but it's not defined her. It's not made her not enjoy life. I think that was something that I took from her monologue and writing it that really reminded me that we can overcome, we can improve. But I think part of that is surrounding yourself with people who love you and surrounding yourself with people who make you better. So I think that for her, that was Alcoholics Anonymous and also her husband. And for me, I feel like that's my family and my friends. And so I think that if I was going to take anything from her monologue, it would be that we can overcome, we can persevere through everything in life.
Three words that shatter me completely. My world goes blurry and reality crashes when the doctor tells Brian, my husband, you have dementia. My high school sweetheart, the love of my life, the one who sweeps me off my feet and dances me around the world, the one who makes my depression disappear, the one who completes me. Three words. What happens now? My mind hits rewind. I'm back in my college dorm room. I hear a ringing sound. Try to crawl out of bed, pick up the phone. But it's impossible. Paralysis hits my body. My comforter and sheets are too heavy. My muscles are too heavy. I have depression. Three words. Life's too heavy. I'm back in the present with Brian. But something's off. After 5 glasses of wine, we're fighting. I'm arguing with my love. At the end of every sentence, I sip a little more. 3 words. Get another drink. He can't die. I need him even more than he needs me. His eyes are the reason to keep going. He knows me, therefore, I know myself. 3 words. 1 more drink? Wait a second. Could it be that all my pain is rooted from all those glasses of wine? Broken promises flowed in. I need something to grasp, a reason to keeping on after my lifeline is gone. 3 words. Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. I can change. I'm driving back to the house. 90 meetings in 90 days. I pull into the driveway and see my love. He doesn't recognize me. He's in our front yard. He reaches for me with precious relief and says, "You found me." With every meeting, I grow stronger. The meetings are becoming my safe place, a place where I can finally find my worth. My empowerment evolves. 3 words. He is gone. Here I am, 74 years of life, 9 sober. Through my dark days of depression, drinking, and my partner dying, I have found a life worth living, taking it one day at a time through my stages of recovery. I am not destroyed. Even after he died, I continue to live, knowing there is an island of opportunity in the middle of every difficulty. 3 words. Happy, joyous, free.
I take time to study about trauma and the effects it has on the human body, and that really fascinates me. So whenever I heard her story, it gave me a more personal, attachment to what I study, wrote, the factual knowledge that I study and I read about and all the clinical practices. It's very bland and stark. It doesn't have much emotion to it other than the fact that it's someone's deep, dark trauma. But hearing her story, it gave me greater perspective. What I'm learning is not just in textbooks, it applies to people. It seems like a very ignorant thing to say, but it really did open my eyes a lot. The way I decided which body movements and gestures to include in my performance was a lot of it contributed to the help of my professor Anne. I don't think I could have come up with that on my own. It seems so obvious now, but she really helped show me what I could do with my body. I wanted it to seem really firm, so the decision making behind that was that in the beginning she was scared to do it, so she couldn't do as big of a gesture, and then towards the end, whenever she found that strength within herself, she had bigger gestures and she was more firm in her actions. So that was the thinking behind it. I feel honored to tell Karen's story. I hope that I encompassed it well and that she feels like I did right by her.
What can I tell them without seeming weak? I sit in a small circle with other strangers, led by a therapist promising to ease our torment. Hurt people healing each other? I fear what I will reveal about myself. I fear the pitying expressions from around the circle. We role-play relationships with one another. I become another's inner child, a vector through which she can heal herself. I feel the embrace of another woman's arms and tighten as she whispers into my ear, soothing me as she wishes someone had done for her. My throat tightens and pulses as she holds me. I cower and lower my posture from adulthood to the fetal position of the wounded inner child, and I weep for her and me. A memory surfaces, me as a young girl at a family get-together. The door to the bathroom quietly closes shut with just the two of us in the room. My uncle stands in the corner of the half bath, staring at me. I keep my eyes on the ground to avoid his gaze, cringe at the sound of my zipper unraveling, of my pant legs bunching, and of my urine streaming as he watches. But I can't find the word stop to this uninvited tormentor. He cannot hear me screaming, "Leave!" He does not hear me question, "Why must you stand over me?" In silence, he looms like a vulture over a carcass. No one at the family gathering speaks about how my uncle and I disappeared at the same time. No words are said about how he scares me. Can't they see? I can't fight back. Why don't they notice how he focuses on just me? Why couldn't they hold me like the tender woman from the circle, who makes me feel protected, assuring the little girl inside me she has the power to stand up for herself? The memory fades and I'm back in the circle again. I order the man playing the role of my uncle to stand back until he's the opposite side of the circle. "Further away," I shout, and he steps back a few inches, but I want him gone. In the same silence where he trapped me years ago, I stride towards my uncle, with my shoulders pulled back, 2 hands raised, and I push him towards the door, out of the room, and I slam the door in his face with enough force to make the hinges crack. "Be gone!" And the memory no longer controls me. No more covert shut doors and quiet smirks from anyone these days. I want everyone to know I drove the tormentor out of my life.
I interviewed with Margaret Caldwell. The real guts of her trauma had to do with religion. So I really wanted to focus on how that affected her. It's not something I've ever really dealt with, so there's definitely not a disconnect, but I had to really try to understand more so, just because it was an experience that I had never ever experienced. She's really taken it into her own hands, going from someone who had such a poor relationship with religion to becoming a female priest. It really shows a lot of dedication and just so much strength to be able to put yourself through that and to really swap that story. I feel like it was important because I think a lot of people share a similar story and that it's not always talked about. I know religious trauma is not rare by any sense of the word, but it is definitely a tough subject, and I think having the opportunity to talk to people, especially a larger crowd about it, may have given other people the strength or the motive to work through their own kind of religious trauma.
Family. A tough subject for me historically. My father, the Presbyterian, my mother, the Episcopalian. Their marriage destined to fail, some might say, but their differences were always about religion, never faith. Pushing and pushing and pushing. My escape was a great aunt's garden, the smell of the spring flowers and the newly born grass. I stayed there often those childhood days, surrounded by family who embraced me, even despite our cuckoo father. All knew he was over the top religious. Pushing and pushing and pushing. One day, my father left for the Congo to right the world's wrongs, at least in his eyes. Called mother sinful, called me heathen, handwritten letters to me as a teen, condemning me to hell, I was engulfed in his religious insanity. The God that my father prayed to was hateful, judgmental, and angry. Mother blamed his God for my father's anger. She soon became adept at slamming doors, pushing and pushing and pushing. I finally found grace in nursing school, bringing the light, the love, and the passion back into my life. I still feel the pull, the tug of faith pulling me from the depths of a hellish religion that had cornered me like a bird caught in a cat's mouth, pulling and pulling and pulling. And the pull does not stop, and grace gifts me with a beautiful baby, the holiness of creating a life, something so sweet and pure within myself where I thought it not possible. Pulling and pulling and pulling, faith continues to pull me from my past, guiding me towards an unknown goal. I trust this feeling now. Follow the unknown, ready to embrace it. First, a master's in divinity. Next, female priesthood, fully covering myself in the light that faith has guided me to. Pulling and pulling and pulling. 30 years later, I am reforming my life and my relationships, new ways of understanding running wide and deep within me, gracing me with light, love, and healing.